Hello students, welcome back to PACE Academy. So in this session that we're talking about the circulatory system and all, we're talking about the external and internal structure of the heart. So we're talking about what you can see in the heart from the outside and what you can see when you dissect the heart. So these are the blood cells which are flowing in your heart, or the blood which is acting as a circulatory system in your body. Coming to the cardiovascular system, it is having two parts. It is having the heart. So you know the heart is pumping, contracting and relaxing in a rhythmic fashion. Then you have the blood vessels, which are the arteries and the veins that are helping in the movement of blood throughout your body. So the arteries are collecting the oxygenated blood from the lungs and they are supplying it to different parts of your body, and the veins are taking up the deoxygenated blood from your heart, from different parts of your body, and sending it to the heart for oxygenation. Then you have the blood. Blood is nothing but the fluid type of tissue that is flowing through your veins and arteries, such that it is helping in transportation of different materials and also the oxygen. And as you see, this is the human heart, which is having 4 chambers and it is fist sized. It is made up of thick muscular walls. Why thick muscular walls? Because it is pumping or it is contracting so that the blood will flow through different arteries, and that too because of the thick muscles, it is giving much pressure for the blood to flow. And it is muscular means it is made up of highly muscular tissue or the muscles, which are cardiac muscles, and they are regulated or they are working on its own. It is also, when you observe the heart when dissecting the body, it is appearing reddish brown because there is high supply of blood which is giving red color, and muscles are brownish in color. And always remember, heart is mesodermal in origin, means from the mesodermal layer only the organ heart is formed. So from that you can easily say only organs which are having the third layer, that is mesoderm, are having the heart. And it is present in the mediastinal space. Mediastinal space means what? The space that is present in middle of your thoracic region, and also it is present in middle of the sternum. That's why it is called mediastinal space. Next, mediastinum means lying in between. You can also see the picture here. Here you can see 2 lungs, and the heart is present in between both the lungs, and it is present above the diaphragm, and also it is having the venular and the arteriolar supply of blood. This is the exact position of the heart. The heart is conical organ. Why we are saying conical? Because it is having the apex which is narrow and the other upper surfaces are broader in length or width, and base at an organ with the base at the top. So this is the base. You can observe, this is the base at the top and the apex is towards the bottom. So this is the base at the top which is broader, and apex is shorter and is ending in a point. You can see the base and apex. You can also observe here, when you are asking what is the weight of the heart or how much it is weighted, then it is nothing but human heart is about the size of person's closed fist. As I already said, when you close your fist, whatever the size of your fist is there, that is the size of your heart. And it varies based on your age, because as you know, the fist, as you see, is different in different ages. And it is around 300 grams, means more than, it is more than 250 grams or it is 300 grams. Now the first part that we are talking about is the pericardium. So pericardium is the heart is covered by double walled layer called pericardium. The heart is covered on the outer surface by double layer, means they are having 2 layers, that is the pericardium. And this pericardium, whichever is there, is made up of fibrous pericardium which is outside. So the outer covering or outer layer of the heart is fibrous in nature, and it is called the fibrous pericardium. And next part is the serous pericardium, or the inner double layered. Serous means what? It is having more of the serous cells, and it is serous pericardium, which is made up of 2 layers, that is the parietal layer, which is present towards the outer surface of the heart, and next will be the visceral layer. So visceral layer or epicardium is in close contact with the heart. That's the reason whenever a tissue is in close contact with the organ, it is called visceral. So visceral layer is epicardium, and parietal layer or outer layer fused with the fibrous pericardium. So whatever this fibrous pericardium is there, so the parietal layer, the outermost layer, is being fused with the fibrous layer, and this visceral layer is adhered to the surface of the heart. So any tissue that is in close contact with any organ comes under the visceral layer. Next, coming to the pericardium again, the heart is surrounded by this double layer. This is very important question. In your examination, they'll ask you, what is the double layer called? It is called pericardium. And also remember, the pericardium is made up of 2 layers, that is the outer fibrous pericardium and inner serous pericardium. And always remember, the inner layer serous pericardium is made up of 2 layers again, which is parietal pericardium, which is present away from the heart. Then the next one is visceral pericardium, which is placed towards the heart, and it is also called as epicardium. You can also see the pericardial cavity filled with pericardial fluid. So whatever the space is there between this pericardium is nothing but pericardial cavity, which is having fluid inside it. It is thin and transparent. So this layer is thin and it is transparent, and it means that the heart can easily be observed from this layer. So what is the fibrous pericardium made up of? It is made up of fibrous connective tissue. So the entire connective tissue is having more amount of fibers in it. You can see here, this is the fibrous connective tissue. Then next, let's talk about the serous layer, as it is having 2 layers again. When I say this, if I divide the tissue, or when I take the cross section of the tissue, the pericardium, the serous is again having 2 layers. Whatever is in contact with the heart is called visceral, and which is away from the heart is called parietal. So a narrow pericardial space, a small space, is present in between the parietal and the visceral layer. There is a small space which is differentiating the parietal layer and also the visceral layer. So in between these 2 layers, whatever the fluid or whatever the liquidy material is there, that is called pericardial fluid. And the cavity is called, or the cavity is filled with the pericardial fluid, which is when measured is 15 ml. When measured, the pericardial fluid is 15 ml. Please note it down. In a examination paper which is tough, this question may appear. Then you can also see this fluid reduces friction between the 2 membranes. Why this fluid is present? Because the heart is continuously contracting and relaxing. Because of this contractions and relaxation, there will be some friction between the heart and also the outer organs, or the organs which are surrounding it. So to prevent this, the 2 layers are having the fluid in it, so that it prevents the friction and also allows free movement of the heart. So the heart can easily move without any disturbance. Next, this is the heart, which is having the pericardium, which is the outer layer, then epicardium inside, and myocardium, which is much more inside. So the heart is covered, the heart outer covering is called the pericardium. Then again, heart is having 3 muscular layers. The outer surface is called epicardium, the inner surface is called endocardium, and between this epicardium and endocardium, whatever layer is there, that is called myocardium. You can observe here the wall of the heart consisting of 3 layers. The first one is epicardium, which is single layer of flat epithelial cells. So the outer layer is only single layer with flat cells, or the flat epithelial cells, made up of Mesothelium. So you know all the structures of the heart or the heart as a whole is formed from the mesothelium or the mesoderm. So made up of the mesothelium. Next, the myocardium or the middle part is the cardiac muscle fibers for contraction of relaxation of the heart. So this myocardium is the area, or the myocardium is a muscular structure which is helping in the contraction and also relaxation of the heart. So it is made up of the cardiac muscles. Myocardium is the area which is made up of the cardiac muscles which are helping in contraction and relaxation of the heart. Next is endocardium. So single layer of flat epithelial cells. What is endocardium? It is made up of single layer of flat epithelial cells made up of endothelium. Next, this is the wall. Transverse section means when you cut the heart in the transverse section, you can see the different layers of the heart. When you observe, when you are cutting a part of the heart, you can observe the outer surface is made up of the fibrous pericardium because it is mostly made up of fibers. Then inside or inner to the fibrous pericardium you have the serous layer which is made up of parietal pericardium and visceral pericardium. So you can see parietal pericardium here. Then inner to the parietal pericardium having the visceral pericardium. In between these two layers there is a fluid which is 15 ml, is nothing but the pericardial fluid. So this entire visceral pericardium, parietal pericardium along with the pericardial fluid is called serous pericardium. And you can see these three structures. The innermost structure or the main components of the heart, the innermost structure is called endocardium, the middle part is called myocardium, and the outermost layer of muscles is called the epicardium, also called as the heart wall. The heart wall is made up of three layers. The outer layer epicardium which is made up of single layer of endothelial cells. Then again you have middle muscular layer which is having the main functioning of the contractions and relaxations of the heart. Then the innermost layer is endocardium which is again made up of the many types of, it is again made up of single layer of endothelial cells. So this is how for transplantation, if you are taking the heart out, this is how it is appearing. You can see this is the structure of the heart when you are seeing externally without cutting it into pieces. And when you are taking the sectioning of the heart or when you are cutting the heart into two equal halves, you can see it is having again different chambers or different compartments which are present inside it. So the right side is here, the right side of the heart. Then this is the left side of the heart. Human heart has four chambers. As I said, there are two atria and two ventricles present in the human heart. One ventricle and one atria on the right side, one ventricle and one atria on the left side. So two atria, as you know, these two are the two atria. And again you can see superior small thin wall. So whatever these atria are there or the two walls are there, they are superior, means they are present above the ventricles and they are smaller in size compared to the ventricle and they are having thin wall. The wall of the atria is thin and they are receiving the blood. They are receiving the blood from the lungs or they are receiving the blood from the entire body. And again you can see here there are two ventricles. And this ventricle whichever is present, it is made up of or it is present below the atria or it is present in the inferior part of the heart. It is present in the inferior part of the heart and the chambers of this ventricles whichever are present are larger compared to the atria and they are having thick wall. The wall of this ventricle is thick and it is having distributing chambers, means what? It is pushing the blood to different parts of your body. Atria are receiving the blood whereas the ventricles are pushing the blood out of your body or pushing the blood towards different tissues. And this is the coronary artery which is again supplying blood to the heart and the coronary veins. There are two grooves on the external surface. So as you can see there are two depressions. Grooves means what? Depressions on the heart, and one lies between the atria and the ventricle. So one of the depression is present between the atria and the ventricle. whereas which is called, so as it is present between the atria and ventricle, it is called atrioventricular depression or atrioventricular groove or coronary sulcus. As it is related to the heart, it is called coronary sulcus. You can see here how the coronary sulcus is being displayed. Next you have the next lies between the ventricles. The next depression or next groove is present in between the ventricles, which is called as the interventricular sulcus. Why? It is present between, inter means in between, so it is present between two ventricles, it is called interventricular sulcus. You can also observe anteriorly, when you see the heart anteriorly, it is having atria or atrium, two chambers which are smaller. Atrium are present on the anterior part, which are protected in the form of muscular pouches. They appear as muscular pouches like structure called auricular appendix or auricular appendage. The heart is supplying blood to your entire body. It is giving the oxygenated blood to different tissues of your body, and again the heart is taking up the deoxygenated blood from different parts of your body so that it can pump it back to the lungs where the oxygenation of the deoxygenated blood takes place. Here you can observe, do you remember that the artery which supplies and receives the blood to and from the heart? So do you know what is the artery that is supplying the heart? Though you all think the blood is already having a lot of blood in it because it is already pumping so much blood, it will utilize that blood. But that is definitely a wrong answer, because whatever blood is going into the heart is just being pumped out, but it is not used by the heart. The heart is having a separate blood supply, arteriolar venular supply, which is helping in the blood supply to the heart as well as the removal of blood from the heart. So it is nothing but the coronary system. So the coronary artery, why coronary? It is related to the heart. So coronary artery and the coronary vein in the sulci. So you can see this is the coronary artery and the coronary vein. Always an artery will be represented as a red tube, whereas the vein in a blue tube. So coronary arteries supply oxygenated blood to the heart, and the coronary arteries and the branches are lodged in the interventricular groove. So as you have read, the heart is having two grooves. One of it is the interventricular groove. In between the ventricles there is a groove called interventricular groove. And when you see the artery is going in between the interventricle or in between the ventricles, that artery and the groove, whichever is found, there is the coronary artery and the coronary vein. What do you do, or what do the coronary veins do? It is nothing but taking up the deoxygenated blood from the cardiac tissues. Here you can see coronary veins drain the deoxygenated, or the oxygen concentration is less in this blood, or it is having more carbon dioxide. This blood which is used by the tissues is taken up by the coronary vein, and the blood from the heart is being taken up by this vein. Coronary veins join to form the coronary sinus. Sinus is nothing but a bulge or enlargement which is present. So enlargement, when it is present in between the vessels, it is called a sinus. So these two coronary veins, as you can see, they are joining together to form the coronary sinus. And the right atrium, as you know, right side, left side, the right atrium is nothing but a muscular wall which is smaller in size. So atrium is larger in size than left. So the atrium is always smaller in size compared to the ventricle. But when you compare right and left side, right is much larger than the left atrium. You can also observe here, there are two structures, that is pulmonary trunks and systemic aorta. There are two structures, means what? Two vessels. You can see here two vessels which are coming out of the atrium. The atrium is opening into two pipes or two vessels which are nothing but the pulmonary trunk and the systemic aorta. Why pulmonary trunk? Because this pulmonary tube or the pulmonary trunk, whichever is there, is getting the blood from the heart into from the lungs to the atrium. So as it is getting the blood from the lungs, it is lungs. Anything related to the lungs is called pulmonary. So as it is getting the fluid or the blood from the lungs to the atrium, it is called pulmonary trunk. And if the atrium is receiving blood from the entire body or the systemic circulation, it is getting it from the systemic trunk. That's the reason the opening of the atrium where the blood is flowing from entire body is called systemic trunk. You can also see pulmonary trunks arises from the right atrium, or the pulmonary trunk is arising from the right ventricle. Means what? Here is the right ventricle. So you can see it is opening out. As you know, it is pulmonary, means what? It is something related to the lungs. And you also know the ventricles are pumping the blood. As they are pumping the blood and something related to the lungs is there, it means this right ventricle is pumping the blood to the lungs. Whereas systemic aorta arises from the left ventricle. So from the left side, what is happening? The left ventricle is pumping the blood to entire body. To your entire body, the left ventricle is supplying. So it is called a systemic aorta. And it is also called as superior vena cava or precaval. Superior vena cava, also called as precaval. And the one which is going, whatever this, when you are observing systemic one, the systemic aorta is divided again into two. The one which is going up, the one which is supplying the upper part of your body is called the superior vena cava, or the one which is getting the blood, which is supplying or which whose vessel is going towards your head is called the superior vena cava, and whose vessel is going inferiorly or it is going and supplying to different parts of your body, it is called inferior vena cava. And the pulmonary trunk and the systemic aorta are connected by ligament arteriosus. As you can see, both of this, one is the aorta which is having oxygenated blood, the one is blue color means deoxygenation. So both of them are supplied by or are joined together by a ligament called ligament arteriosum. You can also see ligament arteriosum. What is this ligament arteriosum? This is nothing but the remnant of ductus arteriosus of fetus. So ductus arteriosus, you can see here in the children what is happening, or in the infants when they are born. You can see the blood is flowing in the ductus arteriosus, and that too not in one direction, but it is flowing in the two directions. And when you become adult, slowly this gets closed. The two-way circulation gets closed and only one-way flow of the ductus arteriosus is seen. So as one-way flow of the ductus arteriosus is seen and this one is closed, whatever this tissue was present, that is changed or converted into the ligament arteriosum.